Hello everyone, and thank you for joining today's Code Along. My name is Reese and I'll be your moderator today. We're going to kick off today's session in a couple of minutes. We're just waiting so everyone has a chance to join. In the meanwhile though, we'd love to hear from you. So let us know where you're joining from using the chat or the comments, depending on what platform you're watching on. And yeah, tell us something that you'd like to get out of today's session. We are continuing on from our series. So if you've watched any of the previous ChatGPT series this week, let us know which ones you've watched. So yeah, the one on Monday with Adele, which was beginner prompt engineering, and then we did advanced prompt engineering yesterday. So yeah, let us know if you've been keeping up, and yeah, tell us if you've got a streak going on. A few bits of housekeeping before we kick off. The session is being recorded and the recording will be emailed to everyone that has registered for the event. If you haven't registered already, then head over to datacamp.com/webinars, or you can find a link to register. I'll be posting that in the chat very shortly. We are going to have a Q&A towards the end of the session, but if you have any questions at any point throughout the session, then please let us know and send them through into the chat. We are also going to be using DataCamp Workspace and ChatGPT as well today. So if you don't have an OpenAI account, then make sure you get one set up so you can leverage that. And we'll also be using Workspace, but you should be able to use that for free. If you don't have an account, now's a good time to set up an account. It doesn't need to be a paid one. Brilliant. I'll be posting some links in the chat, so keep an eye out for those now. But I'll also be back to repeat these messages for any new joiners shortly. So until then, enjoy the background music. Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for joining today's Code Along. My name is Reese, and I'll be your moderator today. We're going to kick off the session in about 20 seconds or so. We're just waiting so everyone has a chance to join. Let us know where you're joining from. Lots of people from lots of different locations, so always good to see that. And yeah, if you've got any questions that or use cases that you'd like us to run through in the session today, let us know in the comments in the chat and we'll try and incorporate them in the session somehow. If you have any questions as well at any point throughout the session, then please let us know using the chat, and yeah, we'll save them for the Q&A. We might even do some Q&A as we go along as well. We are going to be using ChatGPT and DataCamp Workspace today, so if you don't have accounts on either of those, then please get those set up ahead of the session before we get started so that you can code along with us. I will be sharing a link so that you can get the workspace and also get the slides, so keep your eyes peeled on the chat. I'll also be putting a QR code up on screen as well. Final note as well, if you haven't registered for the event today, then please do that and we can send you the recording as well as any resources as well. You can find this and register at datacamp.com/webinars. And you can also see the link that I've put in the chat as well. You should be able to find that. I'll repost it again shortly so you can get that sorted as well. Brilliant. I think that's everything in terms of housekeeping. Now we will get ready to start the session. So let me appear and I'll get rid of the music. Hello, everyone. And here we go. So your instructor for today's session is Richie Cotton. Among other things, Richie is DataCamp's resident data and AI evangelist and co-host of DataFramed. Richie has been creating courses, content, and stunning fashion ensembles such as the shirt you're about to see since 2016. So without further ado, over to you, Richie.
Thank you for the intro, Reese. So hi there, data scamps and data champs. I'm Richie. Welcome to part 3 of our ChatGPT skills series. So I hope you enjoyed the previous sessions with Adele and Izzy. And if not, don't worry, as you don't need to have attended to understand what's going to happen today. So while the previous sessions have been mostly about writing good prompts and creating marketing content, today we're going to try our hand at analyzing data with ChatGPT. And so using a chat interface for analyzing data, I think is a fairly novel experience still. And so the focus is going to be on what's possible and what a sensible workflow looks like, as well as how to deal with some of the problems you might encounter. So just to note, the Advanced Data Analysis tool is only available on the paid ChatGPT Plus and Enterprise plans. You're going to need to sign up for one of those if you want to follow along, but otherwise, please do feel free just to watch. We're also going to be making use of DataCamp Workspace. And so while we're not actually running any code in it, it turns out that Workspace is just a really good tool for sharing instructions and data files. So you'll need to register for a free DataCamp account if you don't have one already. And so I think I no need to introduce myself since Reese has already done it. So with that, I think we should just get going. So let me pull up my slides and let's get started. All right. So first thing you need to do is go to chat.openai.com. If you don't have an account, then please sign up. Otherwise, sign in so you are ready to start. As I mentioned, the Advanced Data Analysis tool, you need to use a paid version if you want to join in. And also, please do sign up for DataCamp. All right, so first of all, what is the Advanced Data Analysis tool? It's basically just an extension to ChatGPT that gives you access to Python. So regular ChatGPT can write Python code for you, but it can't actually run it. And so this extension lets ChatGPT run the Python code that it generates as well. It also has a facility to upload and download files for you. And it can also perform some file operations as well. All right, and one of the big reasons for its existence is that ChatGPT is just very efficient at doing calculations by itself. So if you're here on Tuesday, this calculation may look familiar. This is the same calculation that Adele was using. And so if you ask ChatGPT to do some simple arithmetic, it's actually got much better at this in the last few months. So if you've been following things around prompt engineering, one of the big tricks recently has been if you say, please explain your working or explain your reasoning, think through things step by step, then that encourages ChatGPT to be a little bit more logical. And so it seems OpenAI recently updated ChatGPT to make it augment your prompts anytime you ask it to do some mathematics. So this will automatically happen. By default, ChatGPT will now give you step-by-step reasoning as to how to do the calculations. And you can see it gets pretty close to the actual answer. So it calculates 0.206654. The actual answer is 0.20666229. So it's quite close to the right answer, but it's also really efficient at doing this. A simple, like a cheap standalone calculator that you can buy for a couple of dollars, that is going to be able to do this calculation in microseconds. Likewise, you can do a calculation like this in Python in microseconds, but because ChatGPT needs to explain its working, it takes several seconds to get to this answer. And so this is pretty much the most inefficient calculation you could imagine. Maybe humans are more inefficient because, you have to feed them and give them houses and things, even when they're not doing math. But in terms of computers, ChatGPT is really, really inefficient as a calculator. And so letting it do things in Python is very complementary to its abilities. Now, one thing to note is that OpenAI and DataCamp have had the same idea, but coming from opposite directions. So the Advanced Data Analysis tool for ChatGPT is basically you've got a large language model, and then you've got some data analysis capabilities bolted onto that. And then DataCamp Workspace is the opposite. It's a data analysis environment, so it's a hosted Jupyter Notebook environment, and then it's got the large language model added onto that in the form of the AI assistant. And either way, I think the future of data analysis is going to be mixing code and natural language together. So you're always going to want the capabilities of having like code and this sort of chat AI assistant merged together. Now, 3 steps to getting this enabled. The details are also covered in the workspace that I think Reese sent in the chat. So first thing in ChatGPT on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you can see a ... next to your name. If you click that, you're going to get a context menu. You want to click on settings and beta, and then that'll bring up a dialog, and you want to go to beta features and make sure that advanced data analysis is toggled to on. And then when you start a new chat at the top of the screen, you want to choose between GPT 3.5 and GPT 4. So you're going to want to select GPT 4, and then if you hover over that, you want to make sure that advanced data analysis is selected. So we're going to go through 2 case studies today. The first one is on the world's highest grossing media franchises. And the point of this case study is just going to be trying to figure out how to actually use ChatGPT and the advanced data analysis tool together, just for doing some very simple data analysis. So we're going to upload some data, we're going to do a very short analysis, and then we're going to download another data set, and you can just see how the prompts work for that. This is an incredibly simple data set, so that's the point. It's just supposed to be very simple in seeing what the workflow is. The second example is looking at this week's NFL football results. And so we can do some web scraping, and I deliberately picked the most awful website to scrape data from. So profootballreference.com is this amazing resource for American football data. It's got like everything you could possibly need going back years, but it's also just pathologically hard to scrape. It's like not been designed for use by data analysts or data scientists at all. It's really just designed to be read. And so scraping this site is just a horrendous task for humans. One of those things where it's better to pass it on to an AI. All right, so with that, that's enough slides. If you go to the workspace, so a little bit of introduction here. You've got the instructions for enabling the advanced data analysis tool. And then if you scroll down, so just a bit of advice on broken sessions. I suspect that the advanced data analysis tool is incredibly expensive for OpenAI to run. So they're very quick on killing your chat session. So if you leave them idle for a few minutes, then you might find that your session's been killed. It is theoretically possible to sort of get ChatGPT to remember what it was doing, but I've found it quite often gets confused. And the easiest thing to do, especially in a situation like this where we're going through sort of live, if your session gets killed and it starts running into problems, then it's best just to start a new chat and go through the previous steps again. So that should help keep you up to date. All right, so let's start with a simple data analytics workflow. We're looking at a media franchises data set. I used exactly the same data set in the MySQL Basics cheat sheet. If you're interested in SQL code, then please do check that out. All right, so first step, we are going to import the data. So the data, if you go to Files on the left-hand side of your workspace, you can see it's called Highest Grossing Media Franchises. It's an Excel spreadsheet. And if you click on the ... next to it, you can download the file. I am not going to do this because I have this file already on my machine. And actually, let me open this up so you can see what it looks like. All right, let's bump the text size up a bit here. Sure whether this is sharing. Okay, view, and let's zoom in a bit. All right, so
Richie, we're still on the workspace tab.
Okay, that's not showing, is it? All right. Just bear with me a second then. Let me start sharing again. Okay, you know what? I'm going to share my entire screen so you can hopefully see this. All right, so here's the data set. We've just got a few rows of data, and then we've got half a dozen columns. The other thing is that we have a data dictionary. So we've got data in one worksheet, and the second worksheet has a description of what each of the columns means, the data type, and that sort of helps explain what the data set is all about. And this means that we only have to provide one file to ChatGPT, and it's going to know everything about the data set. All right, so let's go back to, going to go to ChatGPT. I'm going to start a new chat on GPT-4 and Advanced Data Analysis. That's selected for me. So in order to upload the file, there's a plus on the left-hand side of the prompt where it says attach files. So I'm going to do plus, and then select highest grossing media franchises. And then I have pre-written a prompt for us. So I'm going to copy this prompt. I'll just paste it into ChatGPT, and then I'll talk through what this means. Just bear with me while I grab some coffee. All right. So a good place to start when you are uploading new data, you say, this is what we want to do. We're going to analyze the data set. There's only one file here, so you probably don't necessarily need to name the file, but it seems like reasonable practice to do so. Avoids ambiguity. And then you explain the data sets contained in the data worksheet, description of the data set in the data dictionary worksheet. One thing is also useful to provide some context that's going to help ChatGPT write suitable Python code. So in this case, on the data dictionary, the tabulated data starts on the third row, because the first row just says, describes what each row of the data set means. And then, so first task, we want to import the worksheets, display their contents. So this is a sort of fairly standard prompt for, we're going to import some data set and see if it works. I'm going to run that. And you can see, you get this green bar showing up. So this means it's doing some Python work. And if you click show work, you can see the Python that's been written. All right, I'm going to click show here. So in this case, you don't necessarily need this Python code. You can just stick to ChatGPT. If you wanted to reuse this analysis and maybe run it somewhere else, you could, for example, copy the code, paste it into a workspace, and then you've got that to reuse later on.
Richard, can I just jump in with a question from the audience?
You can.
So we've got a couple of people asking, where can I download the data set and the Excel file from? Am I right in saying that that's going to be in the files section of the workspace?
It is, yeah. So in the workspace, you go to files. The file is called highest grossing media franchises. Click on the ... and download file. And then you'll have that file on your local machine, and you can then upload it into ChatGPT.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, so let's see what ChatGPT said. So it's given us an overview of the data set, what's in the data worksheet, and details of the data dictionary. It didn't actually display it as I asked. So let's just ask it to do that again and say, please display the data set as a table. Now, of course, the output from ChatGPT is slightly random. So you'll probably get slightly different outputs to what I've got. There's always a bit of luck involved in, do you get a decent response or not? If you don't like the output, there's usually an option to regenerate the last message. So in this case, it's imported the data set, and you can see, yeah, it's got everything that we asked for. Okay, so next thing is to get it to do some analysis. So I'm going to go back to Workspace. I'm just going to hide the file browser so we've got a bit more space. And I'm going to scroll down a bit. So we want to get GPT to do some analysis, and I'm going to copy this and paste it, this next prompt, and paste it into ChatGPT and then talk through it. So in this case, there are lots of pretty simple questions we can ask about the data set. So just exploring it. I've given it some questions which have specific answers. You can ask it more general questions, and you're going to get a bit more variation in terms of like what the output's going to be. But in this case, these are just questions where there is a known answer, so we can see whether it's right or not. And you'll notice that I'm not having to mention any column names exactly. Like I don't have to say inception underscore year or total revenue underscore billion US dollars, but I am trying to keep the language pretty close to what is in the data set, so there's no ambiguity. All right, I'll send this message and see what it calculates.
Just a quick reminder for a few people in the chat that you are going to need a ChatGPT Plus subscription to use these advanced features. So if you don't have that and you can't see the upload file section, then that'll be the reason.
Yeah, if you want to buy ChatGPT Plus right now, I think you go to the ... and my plan, and there's an option to purchase there. All right. I asked ChatGPT to answer 3 questions. So it's confirmed that these are the questions I asked it. It's basically just repeated what I asked back to it. And then let's see, did it get the right answer? So the franchise with the highest total revenue, that was in fact, is this one? Yep, Pokemon. So it's got that answer right. And then company with the most franchises is the Walt Disney Company, which is, if we go back to the data set, yep, Walt Disney Company owns a lot of the highest grossing media franchises in the world. And then this one involves calculating a mean. So fortunately, we don't have to do taking the mean of more than 2 numbers at a time. So let's just double check these. So if we have a look at this column, there are, for example, 2 books, and the mean of those is what? It's like 43.45. The mean of the movies is 46.05. Let's have a look and see if it got those answers right. Yeah, so all those numbers are correct. It's done our analysis perfectly fine, and the reason for that is got exact numbers because it was using Python, and it's pretty hard for Python to get this sort of calculation wrong. Again, if you wanted to do this analysis or repeat this analysis elsewhere outside of ChatGPT, you can copy the code, paste it into a DataCamp workspace or whatever tool you want. All right, so we know it can do analyses. If you want, you can try asking it more questions. But the next step I want to do is just to show you how you can get a file to download. So I'm going to copy this next prompt and paste it into ChatGPT, and let's go through it. So in this case, we'd uploaded an Excel file. Quite often you do some analyses, you want to store your results or download your results for later on. In this case, I'm asking it to generate a CSV file with a subset of the data set, so just including the Disney franchises, and I'm specifying what the file name is. And this is really all the information you need. Is like what data set should it be, and what should the file be called. So I'm going to run this. And that's pretty quick. And the cool thing is that ChatGPT will host the file for you, which you can then just click on it, and then it's just downloaded to my local machine. So that's the basics of running a data analysis. Upload your data, ask some questions, any results, download them. Easy peasy. We're going to try a second example now. One thing before we move on to the second example, I want to talk a bit about plotting. So my favorite Python plotting tool is Plotly, because it gives you interactive plots. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't work in ChatGPT, which means you've basically got two choices. You can either use a static plotting tool, which Seaborn is a pretty solid choice, or you can just ask it to generate Python code, and then you copy and paste into your favorite data analysis tool, hopefully Workspace. All right, so I'm going to show you an example of what happens when you try and get it to generate a Plotly plot. So in this case, we say we want a bar plot of revenue by franchise, bars colored by medium, and we're asking to draw it in Plotly Express. So I want to show you what happens when things go wrong. So if something doesn't work, in this case, I presume it's going to have thrown an error, then you're going to get some sort of message saying, sorry, there's something gone wrong. And it says, can I create a static bar plot using matplotlib? And say, please use Seaborn instead. Again, very sort of natural conversation. And let's see if it works. All right, there we have it. Yep, it has successfully drawn the bar plot, and I have to say it's very nice being able to actually see output visually within ChatGPT. All right, so let's move on to the second example. We're going to scrape some data from profootballreference.com. This is a screenshot taken from Monday. So these are all the sort of scores. Actually, I think it's been updated since then. This is the latest. Go to profootballreference.com/box scores. You can see this is about the worst possible format you could have for trying to scrape, because rather than having a single table with useful bits of information, one column at a time, each game has its own table, and then the format is it's odd. There's like different numbers of columns in different parts of it, and then it's just each one of these is a bit of a mess programmatically. So I feel like if I was trying to write some Python code to scrape this myself, this could easily be half an hour's work trying to figure out what's going on. So hopefully ChatGPT can do better than I can. Right, so the first thing we have to do is save the web page as HTML. There is, as a backup plan, there is a copy of this web page here. So again, you can just download the file if you want. I took this copy on Monday, so and I know it worked. I don't know whether, I presume they've not changed the page much since Monday. So what you need to do is I'm going to do Command S, and then you want to save this as web page HTML only. I think in Firefox it's the same sort of format. The download dialog might be different, but there should be an option for web page HTML only. All right, so actually, because I've downloaded this once already, I'm not going to download it again, but you can do that yourself. So we're going to start a new chat. Again, you want to make sure that the Advanced Data Analysis tool is enabled. So I'm going to click on New Chat. Again, hovering over GPT-4 and checking that Advanced Data Analysis is enabled. So I'm going to upload the file, which was it? I think this one. And then if we go to this one is a much longer prompt. So I'm going to click copy, and I'm going to paste it in here, and then let's talk through it. All right. So we're starting with a high-level overview of what the point of this analysis is. So basically, important, scrape the page, giving it the file name, and then because this page is pretty huge, it's good to narrow it down to the actual important bit. Like there's all sorts of stuff that we just don't care about. So we only care about this stuff. Obviously, next week, this is going to change. So note to anyone who's watching the recording of this in the future, you're going to need to change this value 2023, week 8. But so the idea is we're limiting the part of the page that we should be caring, that ChatGPT needs to care about. We're providing a description of what this should contain. So we've got lots of tables, and each table contains about one football game. And then this isn't a problem today, but when I was running this on Monday, one thing you might notice is most of these are final scores. On Monday, there was a game that hadn't taken place yet, so it was just in preview mode. I think because there are no games middle of the week, everything should now be final. So this is maybe overkill, but to make the prompt a bit more robust, it's telling you what to do. In the case of preview games, which is just ignore them. So for the games when we have final score, we're going to extract the data, and this gives you full information about what we want in every column with a description of what it means. So we're creating our own data dictionary here. And then the final task, because we've got one table for each game, we want to make it into a single data frame. So that's going to be something that's actually useful for doing analysis on. So we're going to vertically concatenate the rows into a single data frame. Let's run this and see how well it performs. So again, it's running some Python code. It's not totally transparent to me what sort of cloud computer the Python code is running on. I suspect it's not a particularly high-powered machine, so I don't know quite how large the data sets this will scale to. I mean, we're doing something fairly simple, which is scraping a web page, and this is taking quite a few seconds to run. So I suspect it's relatively low-powered. Excuse me. All right. Interesting. So it's failed here, and it's trying again. Let's try this again. This is interesting. So this is one of the problems with the random nature of ChatGPT is that it doesn't always work. You know, I ran this multiple times when I was putting this together, and it works every time, the import section. So this is quite fascinating that it's just taken 5 attempts to work. Good. Okay. It's finally figured it out. So that is one of the nice things about ChatGPT is that it will automatically try different approaches if it gets stuck. So this was how many goes did it take it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Took 5 attempts to get it right, but it managed. Didn't involve any intervention from me. It just had me panicking a tiny bit that this time wasn't going to work. Anyway, I'm glad that's worked. Let's see whether it can manage to compile it all into a single data frame and whether it's got the right answer. While we're waiting for this to run, Rhys, do you have any questions from the audience?
Yes, we do. So we had a question early on pertaining to Workspace, and it was, does Workspace support R as well?
So I did try this. Workspace does support R. The ChatGPT Advanced Data Analysis tool doesn't support R directly, but you can call R from Python. And whenever I've tried to get it to write R code, I'll perhaps go through this in more detail once I finish this analysis, because I don't want the chat to break. But it tries to write R code, but I haven't managed to get it to do so successfully.
Okay.
So yes for Workspace, no for ChatGPT.
Okay, cool. I'll leave the questions for the moment then.
All right, super. Looks like ChatGPT is making some progress. The chat timed out and it started again, but I don't know whether it's learnt how to do this from its last attempt. In this case, so the second time it's trying it is actually, it is describing all the steps that it needs to do to get this right, which is quite useful, because hopefully it's doing this step by step. Oh man, this is pretty slow. Yeah, the other problem, so the thing that went wrong before as well is that because it took 5 attempts to do the first part, and then it was struggling to combine the different tables into a single data frame, it ran out of time. So if ChatGPT keeps generating for more than a minute or two, it just says, okay, this is too much, and falls over, but then you have to start again. So if I'd realized that there was going to be a big problem with this, one thing I think I would have done was broken this down into smaller steps. So we're basically doing multiple things here. We're importing the file, and then we're trying to scrape it for individual tables, and then we're trying to combine them into a single table. So those could be done in separate chat steps. So for example, I could have simplified this to just import this web page. And then once it was imported, I could have said, okay, locate the section for this 2023 week 8 and extract that part of the page. And then I could have said, well, for each table, try and parse it one step at a time, and then finally do the vertically concatenate the rows. So each of these steps could have been done as a separate step in the chat conversation. It's just slightly frustrating to have to give it that level of detail. Yeah, and this has fallen over again. Network error. Okay, that's just as bad.
We've had a few people come in the chat saying it's worked for them, so it is very much.
It is. It is definitely possible. All right, I'm going to try this one step at a time. And how are we doing for time? 11:37. If not, I'm just going to talk you through a previous example. So let's just try importing it first. Yeah, so just import page. No, is that going to work? Oh, that's regenerating. Okay, let's forget this then. I tell you what, actually, while it's doing this, let me go back to previous chat. All right, I must have to talk you through this rather than having you wait for me. All right, so I went through previous prompt and it did in fact manage to import the data set. So the next thing to do once you've got this is actually it's worth checking, does this actually give you a perfect data set or not? So if you look in the Python code, it will often print out stuff that you can't see unless you explore the Python code. So one thing I found when it imported the data set before is that the winning teams actually contained a lot of nonsense in there. So for example, rather than just being New Orleans Saints, it has New Orleans Saints and then this backslash n is a new line and then 38 and some new lines and then the word final. So although it prints correctly here in the markdown, it's got the wrong values in the data. So I think the next thing I asked you to do in the instructions here is to clean up this column. So I would say have a look. If you've managed to get it successfully import the data for you, I would say have a look in the Python code, explore the data set thoroughly and see if you've got any problems. So it might not happen every time you use ChatGPT for this task. As you've seen, there is a fairly substantial element of randomness. It's worth solving if it does occur. So here's a prompt for cleaning up the data set. I'll copy it into here. This isn't going to work now because this is basically it's a dead session. Let me start a new session actually, so I can talk you through. So what this is saying is this is the high level description of what the task is about. This is a really important tip, is to save results into a new data frame. So in Python, particularly with pandas, you often have a choice of overwriting existing data frames if you want to make changes. The problem is, if it does it wrong, then you've then overwritten the previous variable and you basically have to start your analysis all over again. And this is very problematic with ChatGPT, especially when running the analysis again might give you sort of slightly different results. And so I would suggest anytime you want to get ChatGPT to do some sort of data cleaning where you're modifying a data set, always say, please save it into a new data frame. And so this is a description of the specific task, which just strip out any characters after the new line, and then more details on what the right answer should look like, and do the same for the losing column team name. I'm not going to run this because it's something that, well, I don't have active chat at the moment. But for those of you who do, please do that. And the next problem that is most likely to occur is that if we have a look at the players with the most passing or rushing yards, so you can see for each game, we've got 3 different people mentioned. So the person with the most passing yards, you get their name, and then you get a hyphen, and then you get a 3-letter abbreviation for their team. Actually, while I'm explaining this, I'm just going to try and run this one more time and see if it generates this time. Did that work? No. Okay, so what we really want, this is two different things, right? So the passing yards, it should be the name of a person in one column, and then it should be the team name in another column. So I've put in a prompt for trying to split this up. So here are the details. So you're going to copy this first, and again, let me actually, I'll talk through this here. So you're going to modify the data set, saving the results into your new data frame. Again, make sure it doesn't overwrite your existing work. And let me click in here. So it's got the details of the passing yards player column. This might be slightly different in your version. So ChatGPT doesn't always obey your commands on exactly how to name columns, so this might be a little bit different. And so, you're just asking it to, it's got details of like what this column contains, what you want it to do, split the column into two, and then data dictionary for the results. And then there's a sort of second task is ideally you want to replace the 3-letter codes with the full team name. So have a run of those two, and let's see if this has worked. Still going.
Richard,
Can you take a question?
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in as well. We're just picking up a little bit of noise from your microphone as well. I think it's rubbing on your shirt somehow. So
interesting.
Yeah, it's a little bit on and off, but anyway, we'll go to some questions. So, what's a good one? One that we've been getting a lot is, can we use ChatGPT for Power BI dashboards? Lots of people seem to be interested in that one.
I mean, there's no sort of direct hookup to Power BI. One thing you can do, it should be able to write DAX code for you, or M language code for you, and because it can also. Oh, actually, there's a Python integration with Power BI now. So if you've got the latest version of Power BI, then one thing that's probably a good way of doing things is to get it to generate Python code. You can run it within ChatGPT using this advanced data analysis tool. If you get what you want, then copy and paste that Python code into Power BI, and you can run it inside Power BI itself. There's no way of sort of generating a Power BI dashboard as an output. The best it can do is any plots you can generate using Python.
Got it. Another question we've had is, does data require cleaning and preparation before you put it through ChatGPT, or will ChatGPT kind of work through that itself?
Yeah, so this is what I was hoping to be able to demonstrate, but yeah, clearly the ChatGPT's not working for me very well today. So let me show you, I'll go back to my previous attempt at this. So yeah, you can do data cleaning within ChatGPT. Yeah, in fact, let me talk you through what I was doing with this section, because I think that's pretty helpful. So one thing that I wanted to do was replace the 3-letter codes in the team code. So all these sort of 3-letter codes where it says BUF instead of the Buffalo Bills and CAR instead of the Carolina Panthers. I really wanted to replace those with team names. So that's a good example of data cleaning. And so here I asked it to replace the 3-letter code with a full team name, and it tried to do this, and it had several attempts and sort of failed. I asked it to guess, and that didn't work. and then it had several attempts at this. And so one thing that actually worked for me was creating a separate data set that just matches the NFL team names with their 3-letter abbreviation using knowledge of NFL. So one thing that ChatGPT is really good at is knowing everything about everything that's on the internet. So you can see I put an example of what the prompt of a working prompt for this in the workspace. So basically, ChatGPT is trained on almost all sort of data on the internet, and there are in fact examples of just what you need. I found this data set on GitHub. It's got names and abbreviations, and so because it's on the internet and ChatGPT is trained on GitHub data, it knows this already. So ChatGPT can create a perfect data set to do this lookup, and then all you have to do is join it to your existing data set, and it's going to give you the right answer. So if you go back to the workspace, for those of you who have a working data set, please do take a copy of these prompts and then run them in ChatGPT. So hopefully that is going to work for you, and you're going to get sort of real a real cleaned up data set. Now, just to summarize what we've been doing, I know this has been a little bit painful. I apologize for that. Yeah, my ChatGPT luck was not with me today, but I think particularly with the first example, you've seen, okay, the workflow is pretty simple. You give it a data file, you can ask it questions about what you want to get out of this using natural language. It's going to run some Python code for you. And then, although, that's actually not true. It can generate plots. It can't generate interactive plots. So you can generate both plots and output files with ChatGPT. But then when it comes to web scraping, you're going to find, and data cleaning, you quite often find that the code that ChatGPT needs to write, the Python code is pretty hard. So there are often alternative ways of getting it to write the answer. So in that last example, which I sort of failed to show you, is that it's if it can't write Python code to do sort of data set matching, it can actually often find there's an easier way because it knows everything about what there is on the internet. So it can generate things for you that way. Final task, if you're feeling enthusiastic, I just wanted to show you the idea of generating some art with ChatGPT. So start a new chat, and this time, if you're going to switch to DALL-E, and I would like to draw get it to draw an image of some data analysts celebrating. I think that's an appropriate way to finish. So please draw an image of data analysts celebrating. I will leave it to you to be more imaginative in your prompts, and you can see if you can get a better picture. Are there any specific use your imagination? Right, I am going to wait for this to generate, and then in the meantime, let's take some more questions from the audience, and then I shall stop sharing.
Cool. We've had Victor in the chat ask, have you ever tried the plugin Notable for ChatGPT? Apparently it makes downloadable Jupyter Notebook, or it makes downloadable Jupyter Notebooks direct, basically.
I have not used Notable, but that sounds pretty useful. So I did link to the documentation for the Advanced Data Analysis tool, and it tells you what sort of files it supports by default. So currently, the Advanced Data Analysis tool just supports, you've got 2 data types, so Excel or CSV, and then you've got a few text formats, so text, PDF, Word doc, PowerPoint. So yeah, I think you do need plugins if you want to work with any of the data types, because it would be pretty useful to have that sort of, be able to upload Jupyter notebooks, extract information, download new Jupyter notebooks.
Cool. We've also had a question on whether DataCamp Workspace is going to leverage ChatGPT or anything like that. So I know the answer to this, but can you share it for anyone that doesn't know?
Let me stop sharing. Yeah, so DataCamp Workspace already supports GPT. So by default, if you create an AI assistant cell, it will show off. It will use GPT in order to generate code for you, answer any questions for you.
Cool. We've got a question here from Yasin, which is does it matter on the length of the data set? How much is that going to factor in?
Yes. So the short answer is, at the moment, you probably don't want to do very big data analysis using ChatGPT, because it's going to be very, very slow for you. Yeah, it's a low-powered machine. This is for small data analysis, really.
Cool. I believe we've already covered this, but I will just do this for anyone else that missed it. So Kyo asked, can we change the code into other languages such as R or Julia, or is it just Python available now?
It is only Python available at the moment.
What else have we got here? So got a question from Lowrider, which is it possible for ChatGPT to share the correct HTML scraper that is used after several tryouts? If we want that, it'd be pretty useful in this case.
Yeah, so I think the central thing to do is, if you do get a right answer and it's something that's a bit unreliable, so you might want to get it again, I would say take a copy of that code, and next time you can say, here is some Python code, please execute it.
Cool. We got a question from Tony here. This one's quite a long one, so I'm not going to keep it on screen so I can actually read it. Is it possible to use the API to access advanced analysis functionality? I'd like to set up a multi-step code that feeds into a data schema of a data warehouse, then ask it to write SQL code to query that for a specific question. He'd then feed that into an SQL server and get a data file, and then be able to pop that back into ChatGPT for analysis. So yeah, do you think that workflow is possible?
Yeah. So as I mentioned at the start, there's sort of the ChatGPT with the Advanced Data Analysis tool and Workspace are kind of coming at the same thing from different directions. So if you want to do mostly natural language querying and a little bit of code, then probably ChatGPT is more powerful. If you want to do mostly coding with a bit of ChatGPT assistance, then Workspace is what you want. And so, yeah, just having easy access to your database, Workspace is going to do that for you much more cleanly than ChatGPT is at the moment.
We've had a question here from Victor, which is, can I scrape data like tweets with ChatGPT and the Twitter API? Although he thinks the rules have changed on that, might have changed recently.
I can't remember what the exact rules are, but yeah, there are certainly Python or R packages for scraping or for using the Twitter API. So yeah, you can probably ask ChatGPT to write some code to scrape the Twitter API. Give it a try. I haven't tried this, but yeah, it sounds like it should be something you can do.
Cool. We got another question from Eduardo. He asks, can ChatGPT give you a notebook file to download?
The documentation doesn't suggest it supports these notebooks, but as previous person mentioned, there is a note, I think the plugin is called Notable. There's a Notable plugin that will let you download notebooks.
Cool. We've just running through the questions that we've already asked. We've had this one from Mina. So can ChatGPT set the parameters of a deep learning model by description?
That again sounds like something it should be able to do. So I'm not sure exactly how you would use natural language to describe what you want, but if you can do that in a way that like a human would be able to set the parameters, then yeah, ChatGPT ought to be able to write the code. It understands things like TensorFlow and PyTorch, so yeah.
We've got a bit more of a light-hearted question rather than a technical one. So Yasin asks, Richie, you are super polite to AI. Is that because you think it will rule the world? The use of please is priceless.
So partially it's British habit, but actually there is a very good reason for using please. And if you've seen some of the prompts that people from OpenAI write, they use please a lot. And no one's quite sure why please works really well, but the thinking is that in a lot of the text on the internet, if someone asks you to do something and they say please, the quality of the conversation is then higher than it is otherwise. So if you're very polite to your to ChatGPT, then you do get higher quality responses. So there is a good sort of technical reason for being polite rather than just treating it like a machine.
Cool. We've got a few more questions that I haven't reviewed, so I'm just going to have a look through those now. So we got this one from YouTube from Versace. Can we upload various files and ask ChatGPT to join tables in different files?
Yes, I was hoping to get to that today. It just didn't quite work out for me. So yes, if you've got your data, if you persuaded the Python to put your data into data frames, then Pandas will do merging data frames. So yeah, you can do those joins.
We've got a good one here from Sunny asking, oh, well, great show, Richie. Well, everyone agrees. Can ChatGPT develop Python code without the data set for sensitive data sets we wouldn't want to load into ChatGPT? And I guess if not, what other workarounds?
Yeah, so yes, you can ask ChatGPT to write Python code for you. And it's generally going to provide better code if you give it at least some description of what's in the data set, so about metadata, or at least like column headings. So that works, and you don't even need the advanced data analysis tool for that. You can do that with straight up ChatGPT. The other alternative is that you can use a synthetic data set. So we had a code along on this recently with Alexandra Ebert from Mostly AI. So using synthetic data instead of real data is a really good approach there if you've got privacy problems.
We've got Justine again asking, how do you address the ethical implications of using a model like ADA or ChatGPT? Sorry, are there any specific guidelines or best practices you follow?
That is a whole series of webinars in itself. Yeah, so we've got tons of Data Frame podcast episodes about this. I particularly recommend there's one with Reed Blackman we did a while back. In fact, there's been about half a dozen episodes on this in the last few months, so please do listen through Data Framed. We've got more, there'll be webinars on this in the future as well, more podcast episodes. It's a long topic.
Cool. I think we've probably got time for one more question. I think we're at time now. So let's see if there's any particularly good ones here. So we've got another one from Mina asking, can we use ChatGPT to gather photos with predefined features? That seems a little bit advanced to me, but what do you reckon, Richie?
That sounds like a hard thing. So you're asking to scrape the internet for photos with specific features. I mean, you can probably get it to write a web scraping tool, some kind of spider that's going, I don't know, searching stuff. You've got to be very careful with things like copyright, and if you're getting photos of people with consent issues as well, because a lot of people don't want their photos being used for whatever machine learning project you're doing. So in theory, yes, but that's a big project and you need to think very carefully about it.
Cool. I think that's pretty much everything that we've got for questions. So yeah, I'll let you wrap us up, Richie, and I'll disappear.
All right, thank you, Reese. And apologies for the slight technical issues there with ChatGPT. I hope you still learned something. I would say please do go through that workspace again, try all those prompts, and see if you can get ChatGPT to be a bit more successful at scraping the web page than I was. So I'm glad Alex enjoyed it. I hope more of you enjoyed it as well. Please do join us again for future webinars. So next week, we've got a session on Tuesday with it's on simplifying image recognition. So it's going to be using Python. It's going to be using a database for images called ApertureDB. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then on the Thursday next week, we've got an MLOps based session. So please do come back for those. Thank you to everyone who asked a question. Thank you to everyone who showed up today. I hope to see you all again in future